I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about integrated development environments and a little bit about functions. And I would like to use assignment A5 to help us figure all that out. Okay, so I have the Python shell open using idle right now. So I'm going to go File, Open, and this should bring up my assignment A5. Okay, currently that assignment is sitting in a folder. I'll just bring it up. That assignment, if I come down through here, is sitting in a folder called Submissions. The Submissions folder is a folder that I have created where I download all of your submissions so that I can correct your assignments. It keeps me organized, and now you'll see why I want your names to be all different, right? So there it is. This one's called solution A5 underscore more because I plan on doing more to solution A5. So let me close that because I don't need to worry about that right now. And we're going to have a look at the code that's going on down here. While not done, enter a positive integer. The integer must be non-negative. So I've created a way in which to ensure that my input is valid input. For example, let's go ahead and run this thing. In the case of Python, if you are in the shell window, you won't get a run drop down at the top of your screen. In this case, I have two screens. I have my main screen and this one, so you're not seeing the menu bar at the top. Okay. If I click in this window, I do have the run drop down. So let's go ahead and let's click on that. I'm going to say run module, and it says enter a positive integer. So I'm going to enter garbage, right? Just like that. And if I hit enter, it comes back and with a really nasty crash. Okay, that's not good. I don't like that at all. I would like to find a solution to this. I would like to get around this particular problem. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. And I'm going to run this again, clicking over here to activate the menus, run the module, and this time I'm going to put in, say, -5, hit enter, and it's going to come back with integer must be non-negative. Please enter a positive integer. And that agrees with what's going on here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put in 5, and it's going to give me my answer. So I have a couple of situations. I have one situation that I can easily deal with, and that is if the user types in a negative integer, I'm good to go. I have another situation, however, that I don't know how to deal with, and that is what happens if the user puts in letters of the alphabet. These are things that we can find the solution to eventually, and they're really, really clever solutions, which I'll probably show you in this lecture series as well. All right? So one of the things I don't like about all of this, though, is if there is a problem, okay, let's say if n is right over here, let's say that I do this. I ruin this piece of code by just simply saying 2 to n plus 1, like so, to calculate the factorial. Now there's a bug in my code. I can go ahead and run it. Save it like it says, enter positive integer, and I'm going to go 5, hit enter, and it comes back that 5 factorial is 24. Well, it was given that 5 factorial is equal to 120 so that we could test our software to make it easy for you. Obviously, things aren't working. So how am I going to be able to solve this? Well, one way to solve it is to simply print, at this point, enter the code to print and I want to print F. This way I can see exactly what is going on as the program runs. All right, so I'm going to come over here and do my run module again, and of course it's going to ask me to save it. And I enter my number 5, and it comes back and it lets me know what the iterations were. It found a 2, a 6, and a 24, and I can write down exactly what's going on line by line on a piece of paper also, and I can compare it, and I end up discovering that, oh, it didn't do the last iteration. So to make it do the last iteration over here, I just go n plus 1, and I'm good to go. So this is a great little debugging technique. Now there are other ways though to be able to handle this, but not through idle. The other way is to use what is known as an integrated development environment. And basically what that means is not only does it allow us to write the code that we want to write, but it also gives us tools to be able to debug the code that we are writing, while at the same time providing a place for output to appear. So it's one huge cool little environment, one huge cool little package that we can use to develop our software. Okay, so I've corrected my errors here. I'll save it, and then I will run it. And we'll go 5, hit enter, and sure enough, that's the correct answer. I no longer need this line of code, so I've got to remember to get rid of it, right? And do the handy dandy save. And I'm good to go. I'll do one last test run, usually. Right now I'm not going to bother with that. And then I will hand it in. So let's have a look at this integrated development environment. There are a couple of different packages that are out there that make it pretty nice, but I'm going to jump immediately probably to the package that I like the most. Let's go ahead and close this, and we'll close this because we're done with idle. This package is known as PyCharm. Now, let me fire up Chrome here, and I'll type in PyCharm so that I can find out where it's at and then download it. PyCharm. And PyCharm is put out by a company called JetBrains. JetBrains makes IDEs for several different software languages. Languages such as PHP, Java, C++, C, a few of them, okay? Excuse me. I'm battling a bit of a cold here. So I'm going to click on PyCharm, and I have the option to download it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click download now. And up here, it should automatically select my operating system. If it doesn't, select the correct operating system. And once you've done that, you can go over here and download the community edition. And the reason that we use this edition is because it's free. There is some differences between the professional edition and the community edition, but those differences are not big enough to cause any kind of a problem for us, okay? Now, for PyCharm to work, you must have already downloaded and installed Python, okay? So idle's going to be there already. If it's not, then you'll have to download that first. This way, PyCharm, when it installs, will find will find the Python software and automatically include it in its development environment. So we click on download. It says thank you for downloading PyCharm. It's now downloading the critter, and all we have to do is double click on the icon and it's going to install it. Okay? Well, I'm not going to double click on the icon. I don't need to do that because PyCharm is already installed on my machine. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go to the icon that was created for PyCharm and double click on it, and I'm going to get a splash screen, and then this pops up. Okay? It says welcome to PyCharm. I have the option of creating a new project where what will happen is PyCharm is going to manage a whole bunch of Python files that should be considered as one big application or one big project. It will manage it for you and keep things organized. We don't need to do that in this class. All we need to do is just look at our individual program files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on open, and it's going to ask me what directory do I want to open. And I'll come down through here and find my submissions directory. There it is right there. And if I click OK, it's going to go ahead and launch PyCharm. Okay, so PyCharm has been launched. I now have a folder called submissions and a folder called external libraries. This folder here holds all of the Python files that are necessary for you to be able to actually write amazing programs. So if you ever need to actually look at a particular file, you can go in here and do it. In most cases you won't, okay? But here is my submissions folder, and in the submissions folder, let me go ahead and scoot that over a little bit. In the submissions folder, I have the Python file that I was talking about before. If I want to create another Python file, all I have to do is go right-click, New Python file, and it will allow me to create it. And I'll just do that for the fun of it, and I'll call it test, just like that, and I'll pick OK. And what it does is it now has created a Python file called test, and it looks exactly the way it would as though you were doing it in idle. And of course, I don't need this file, so I'm going to come down through here. I right-clicked it, and I'm going to click delete. And I'll say goodbye, and now I'm ready to work with solution, okay? So double-clicking solution, here it is. You'll notice that I have a list of all of my files that I want to work with. Over here, I have the actual solution. And now if I want to run this, at the top of my monitor, my other monitor, just like idle, I have run. And I can go ahead and say, run A5. And down here, it opens up a shell. And as you can see, it's still part of the whole picture. And you'll notice that I have a stop button, which is awesome, because if you end up writing an infinite loop and you can't get your program to quit, you can always go over here and stop it, all right? I can enter a positive integer called 5, and if I hit enter like that, it gives me the answer, and it tells me that the process finished gracefully, because it finished with exit code 0. So this is basically what the interface looks like. Now, I have a couple of options. Number one, if I go over here, I can right-click, and I can tell it to show me line numbers, okay? And if I have indent guides, indents of some kinds, it can show me those as well. See this little vertical line? This is letting me know that these are all lining up nicely with respect to indents. Now, let's say that I am troubleshooting it like I did with idle. And let's say that I want to go ahead and print something. So I'll go over here and I'll tab in like before, and if I go P for print, you'll know now that it's giving me lots of little options. Go R. I'm not seeing print yet. PRI. Oh yeah, there's print. See? If I now hit the enter key, it automatically completes print and it pops in some parentheses for me. And if I want to, I can tell it, I guess N. That's a possibility, right? And now it's showing me that I have a V, which is a variable called N, and I can hit enter and it will do a print. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that line of code, and let's try this down here in this spot. I go over here and I say print, PRI, there it is. I can hit enter and then type in F, and at this point I can just go ahead and I think hit enter, and sure enough it accepted it. Isn't that cool? So now when I run the program, it of course will do exactly the same thing that it did before. You'll notice that it's highlighting N. The name N cannot be defined, so it's going to ask for what's going on there, right? Calculate the factorial of N. N cannot be defined. That's because N right here is not in the scope of this little loop, and we'll talk about that kind of stuff later, all right? They give us little warnings as we go. If we type in something wrong, like so, it gives us little squigglies, lets us know that, hey, we've made a mistake. And if it says unresolved reference print, I can click down to more like so, and it's going to say this inspection detects names that should resolve but don't, all right? So it lets me know that I have an error. So I can go I for print, and now we're ready to go, okay? So this is the general interface. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Remember how we printed every single time? What if I wanted to investigate what was going on here one line at a time, but I didn't want to do it with print? Well, the way that I do that is I can click here in this gutter and a big red button will show up, okay? And it's telling me that I've set what is known as a breakpoint. That means it's going to go through and it's going to execute the program line by line until it comes to the breakpoint that I created, and then it's going to halt and allow me to do some inspecting. And the way that we watch that in operation is, instead of hitting this button, which means run, I go over here and I hit this button here, which is debug. And if I click on that, it says the debugger is now running. It's connected to the debugger, and down here I can just type in the number 5. I hit enter, and then as you see, it's stopped right there. And if I scroll down, it says that I have a list of variables. See all these variables that I have down through here? The one, I just look for the one that I need. I can see that I is currently set to 2 because it started with 2. That N is currently 5 because it was, 5 from up there. That N string is 5. Remember, we had N string. I have a picture of all of my variables, which is really, really cool. Okay? And of course, F is currently 1. So now what I can do, since the breakpoint is inside the loop, I can either just tell it to go ahead and continue executing, and what it'll do is it'll go ahead and do all that it can before it runs into this breakpoint again, or I can do this arrow. And if I click on that one, what it does is it executes a single line of code. So if I click on that, it goes ahead and does that, and now of course F is equal to 2, and I can click on that. I is now 3, okay, so click on that. F is now equal to 3, or 6, because 2 times 3 is 6, and that will continue on. If I click on here, it will go ahead and say, let's see, is it up? Oh, sorry, I have to do it this way, my bad. All right, so we just keep on doing this until finally it gives me the answer and drops out. All right, once we get to this point, we can just probably hit play, and it finishes it, or it allows me to just reinstall or rerun the program completely. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's debug it one more time. Okay, I'm going to enter, this time I'm just going to enter 3 so that it doesn't go through so many iterations. There's I finally have gone down to this point, and when I step over this, I click that, I end up going to a place that is magic line. I've come to a place called def.x file and all kinds of stuff that you don't understand. Well, what has happened is PyCharm believes that you want to intimately troubleshoot your program, and what it has done here is it has literally gone to the Python code that's responsible for actually printing something out. We don't want to look at this, so all we have to do is just pick stop, okay, just like that. So I can close that file. Let's do one more debug. Type in 5, like so. Remember I was telling you about advancing quickly, running, through the whole loop? Well, it's actually over here. So if I click on this, as you see, it is making its changes, see, from down there. Each time I click on that, it runs through all of the program that it can until it runs into that breakpoint again, until finally it is done. All right. So there you are. That's a quick introduction of how the integrated development environment works. The thing that's really, really cool about PyCharm and JetBrains is they have a ton of videos on how to use this IDE. So go over there and have a look at those videos if you want to. I would recommend using this. You will find that there are a lot of really cool features that are available to you. And of course, if you want to turn off a breakpoint, before I forget to tell you, just click on that button again. So that should handle this part of the video. And now what we'll do is we'll go into the whole notion of creating a function.